Welcome into Texans Today, everybody. I'm your host, Jeremy Chuggs, and coming up on today's program, we got practice notes, we got injury updates, every single thing you need to know from Texans and Panthers joint practice ahead of their preseason Week 2 matchup, which obviously will be live here on Texans Today, giving away a Texans jersey on Saturday. Don't miss it. Be there or be square. But I'm just so pumped to see the Texans ones in action going up against other competition. It really got me going. I'm pumped for the regular season, and if you are too, if you're ready for Texans regular season football, well, it's almost here. Go down and hit that thumbs up icon if you're as pumped as I am for some Texans football because, hey, the boys were out there and it was hot. Here was the weather today in Houston during practice. Feels like 93, low of 85, so not too bad, but all my parents out there, all the old guys out there, you know what the saying is. It's not the heat that gets to you, it's the humidity. 79%. Guys had to go in and out of a cooling room that the Texans had outside, like right outside of the practice area. The humidity was getting to folks and might have gotten to the Panthers a little bit more than the Houston Texans. Let's get to some injury updates. Not practicing today for the Texans, Christian Harris, linebacker Cam Robinson, offensive tackle, the DB Jalen Reed, Damian Pierce, running back, Foley Fatukasi, defensive tackle, Derek Barnett, defensive end. Basically everybody that was activated within the past week and a half or has been working on the sideline getting work, they were not practicing today. Along with, obviously, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who we were all really worried about just a week and a half ago. He looked like he was in good spirits. He was having a great time. He was walking around with what looked to be like a knee brace, and he was wearing like some sort of sleeve over it. But it was great just seeing him out there at practice, out there moving around kind of well, just walking around. I don't know, week 1 might be lofty expectations, but he looked pretty, in good spirits, healthy there on the sideline, so hopefully we get to see C.J. Gardner-Johnson back on the practice field very soon. We're going to start on the offensive side for the Houston Texans and the practice notes that I have for this team in this joint practice up against the Panthers. First off, the offensive line, I think was good. Obviously, there were points where C.J. Stroud, had pressure, got sacked a couple times, but overall, the offensive line looked much better going up against competition that wasn't Will Anderson Jr. and Danielle Hunter. This was the Texans' first offensive line today, which might be a little interesting. They are keeping, while Cam Robinson's not practicing, Titus Howard at right tackle, Aireontae Ersey, the rookie at left tackle, and Ed Ingram has been the guy stepping in there at the right guard spot. Remember, the Texans traded for him this offseason from the Minnesota Vikings, a former early round pick, maybe revitalizing his career with the Texans and under Cole Popovich. This coming from Landry Locker during practice. Texans' first drive of team capped off with a TD pass to Nico Collins by Stroud. Appears the O-line likes blocking Panthers defensive linemen much better than their own. So that leads to this question. Should the Texans start Aireontae Ersey at left tackle week 1? He has been getting the left tackle reps the past, week and a half, 2 weeks while Cam Robinson's been injured. Let me know down in the comment section. Give me a yes or give me a no. For me, I think maybe it's a good thing that Cam Robinson is missing a little bit of time so we get to see Ersey there at the left tackle spot. And call me crazy, I think Titus Howard's best spot is at the right tackle position. So I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever if week 1 we saw Aireontae Ersey, the rookie, starting as the Texans left tackle, Titus Howard as the right tackle, and then on the interior, Laken Tomlinson, Jake Andrews, and Ed Ingram. This Texans offensive line might surprise a lot of people with how good they've been looking this offseason and how good they can look during the regular season. Let's go to the next practice note that I have for you. C.J. Stroud, I thought from all the notes, everybody that I talked to at practice and all the videos I saw from all the awesome content creators and beat reporters that were there at practice today, C.J. Stroud was working the pocket much better than what we've seen in the past, and especially this past season with C.J. Stroud. In 2025, I want to see CJ Stroud being more comfortable in the pocket and raising his pocket awareness. One thing that I talked about a lot this offseason about CJ Stroud and how he can improve and get better and kind of have a, bounce back season is I think he needs to be more comfortable in the pocket. His rookie season, he was absolutely dicing up defenses within the pocket. This past year, you could tell the pressure was getting to him a little bit. He felt uncomfortable. The Texans, they allowed, top 3 in sacks allowed and top 3 in pressure rate on passing plays this past season. And CJ Stroud, it's kind of affected his mentals a little bit. I want to see him get back on track and be able to deliver inside the pocket and have that pocket awareness, know when to scramble, know when to use his feet. He was doing that much better towards the end of last season, especially going into the playoffs. He was using his feet a lot more, looked healthier throughout the year, and I think that could be a key to him having a big year for the Houston Texans in 2025. We got to keep CJ7 clean. Next up, the run game, still a question mark. Nick Chubb, he was getting the running back 1 reps for this team. Jawar Jordan, I've heard from multiple people, looked pretty good running with the 2s, as well as Woody Marks. Daria Gumbawale getting some work in with the 1s as well, him and Nick Chubb. But Nick Chubb, he's been taking the RB1 reps, and Joe Mixon, it's still yet to see how he's going to do. They're going to activate him the week leading up to the Texans season opener up against the LA Rams and see if he's good to go for that week 1 matchup. But if not, Nick Chubb, I think he'll be decent, but it's really hard to tell because the Texans, it's kind of been either, big play or they've been stuffed at the line. Nick Chubb had a really big run that, it was a practice, so couldn't tell whether or not he would have actually been taken down from behind, but could have been a touchdown run for Nick Chubb for a huge gain. We've seen, Jawar Jordan, we've seen Woody Marks work well in the screen game with the second team. I'm interested to see what this run game looks like. I think it's still a big question mark, especially with Joe Mixon's, availability up in the air for that week 1 matchup. Lastly, speaking of the run game, Houston, we have a fullback. Jakob Johnson getting a ton of work with the 1s whenever they're in 12 personnel. That means 1 tight end, 2 running backs. And I think Jakob Johnson and Xavier Hutchinson had a hell of a day. And I really like what I'm seeing out of Jakob Johnson so far in that fullback spot. He's looked really good for a while. This coming from Jacob on Twitter, another good follow on Texans Twitter. Lots of 12 personnel, including Jakob Johnson and Xavier Hutchinson. 11 has consisted of Nico Kirk Hutch, mainly with Higgins, Noel getting in on a few, and I might be mistaken. I think 12 personnel might be 2 tight ends, one running back, 2 tight ends, but still, he's been getting work as a tight end / fullback all off season long, and I am full on team bring back the fullback. We all remember Big 44, the hammer, Vontae Leach, clearing lanes for Arian Foster. I want to see the Texans, new offensive coordinator Nick Caley, 100% bring back the fullback for this Texans team. I would be all in for the Texans being able to bring that back and get the run game going a little bit more with the use of a fullback. We're seeing it a lot in the NFL with offenses like Mike McDaniel in Miami. We see it with the San Francisco 49ers offense using Kyle Juszczyk. Bring a fullback back. I'm full on for it, and it looks like Jakob Johnson might be the guy. Also, I want to give some shout-outs on the offensive side. These guys had a really good day. Nico Collins, Jalen Noel, John Mechie. I could have put Xavier Hutchinson, the whole wide receiver room. Braxton Berrios looked good today. That's going to be a tough one. Cade Stover had a really good block that you can actually see on my Twitter, at Jeremy Chuggs. I retweeted it. Really good block there by Cade Stover. And the starting O-line, I will say, looked good. Sans, whenever at the very end they put Blake Fisher at right tackle for Titus Howard. Had a false start and a sack, but what else do we expect from Fisher this offseason? But speaking of the wide receiver room, this wide receiver battle is going to come down to the wire on who they keep and who they cut. Because as I mentioned, the wide receivers showed out today. They looked really good. Justin Watson had some nice catches. Braxton Berrios, Jalen Noel, the rookie, as I mentioned, he was one of my shout-outs. He looked awesome. Xavier Hutchinson had himself a day. This wide receiver room is going to be really tricky whenever it boils down to the 53-man roster and the cuts that they're going to make. I'm really interested to see how D'Amico Ryans, Nick Caserio parse it out, how many wide receivers they keep, and what ends up happening with this Texans roster. And I actually made a video about it yesterday with the top position battles, and my number one battle was the wide receiver room. If you want to see all my thoughts, how I view this wide receiver room maybe shaking out, go ahead, watch this video. Here's the thumbnail. I also put that link down in the comment section and description of today's video. Coming up, I have notes on the defensive side for the Houston Texans. And while you're down there possibly loading up that video of the top position battles from yesterday, you can also get yourself a Texans jersey in time for the regular season. You want a CJ Stroud, you want Will Anderson Jr., a Derek Stingley Jr., all of them available with our friends right here. Go to chatsports.com/Texans jerseys. That link will send you straight to the website where you can pick out any kind of Texans jersey you want. Get it in time for week 1, the regular season, up against the LA Rams. And hey, get outfitted with a nice Texans jersey. All right, let's go to the defensive side. Not as many notes as on the offensive side. First note, good note for the defense. The first team, they forced turnovers today. And we all know the Texans defense last year, that's what they excelled at. That's what they were really good at, was forcing those turnovers. In 2024, the Texans forced 29 total turnovers. That was 5th in the entire National Football League. 19 of those turnovers came off of interceptions, which was 2nd in the National Football League. And then the defensive line added on 49 sacks, which was 4th in the NFL. The turnovers from the first team on the Texans defense, Azeez Al-Shaair, he had a forced fumble that was recovered by the Texans. Derek Stingley Jr. had a nice INT off of Bryce Young, and so did Henry To'oTo'o, the linebacker who is vying for that starting role. The Texans had 3 turnovers on defense today. Looked really good up against the Panthers starting offense. It wasn't all roses and rainbows, but forcing turnovers can help you win games in this league, and that's what the Texans, I think that they're planning on doing this year, is being number 1 in the NFL in terms of turnovers forced. How many turnovers do you think the Texans will force this season? Last year they had 29, which was 5th in the NFL. I think they could have more this year. Give me 33, 34 turnovers for this Texans defense. I want to see them be able to take the ball away just like they did last season. Let's go to another note on this Texans defense. The backup cornerbacks, it was a long day. It was a long day for those guys. The backup cornerbacks in some aspects got worked a little bit by the Panthers wide receivers. A lot of the first-team guys going up against some of the second-team guys, especially with C.J. Gardner-Johnson out and, some of the different formations and ways that they're implementing these guys. Jalen Smith, I'm not going to say that he had a bad practice, but the rookie got tested a ton. The 3rd-round pick out of USC, they were kind of targeting him a little bit. And he was lined up against Panthers, receiver Xavier Legette with the first-team offense up against the Panthers. They were going at Jalen Smith. Xavier Legette getting the better of him here and there. Another guy who had a really hard day was Arthur Maulet. He was getting worked a little bit here and there. A couple big plays led up by Maulet. One, a wheel by the tight end. Another one towards the end of practice. It was a tough day for those guys. And speaking of the wheel route and the other big play by Maulet, the defense in total allowed some big plays today. And it wasn't just the second team. It was the first team. There was a good touchdown pass to Xavier Legette by Bryce Young, which I will say Bryce Young looking really good going into year 3. I think him and CJ Stroud are both due for big seasons. But also, Kamari, that one was on Kamari Lassiter. Derek Stingley got beat by Tetairoa McMillan, which would have been maybe a 70-yard touchdown by the Panthers rookie. And I will say for Panthers fans, if you're watching this, well, thank you a lot for watching my video. But 2, you might have gotten a real one in Tetairoa McMillan. The first-round pick by the Panthers looks like the real deal, all of 6'4" and 1/8, and he moves very well for a bigger wide receiver. Reminds me a little bit of Nico Collins. Tetairoa McMillan, I think he's a really good piece for this Panthers offense. And lastly, giving some shout-outs on the defensive side, Dylan Horton looked really good today, getting a lot of pressures. Will Anderson Jr. doing his thing as always. He talked after practice about being able to go up against former teammate Bryce Young and being able to kind of catch up with him. That was kind of cool. And then I think the linebackers as a whole had a good day today. Azeez Al-Shaair, Henry To'oTo'o, both forcing turnovers, all throughout the linebacking core. I think sneakily might be the deepest position on the Texans is the linebacker room. They looked really good today. And I'll finish off this video with this one more time. We will be live preseason week 2. Panthers visiting NRG Stadium. We will be live an hour before kickoff, so 11 o'clock Central Time. Go ahead. If you made it to the end of the video, if you're going to join me this Saturday, drop those H's down in the comment section. Once again, we'll be live giving away a Texans jersey, so make sure you're there so you have a chance to win that thing as we root on the Texans week 2 of NFL preseason action.